Good afternoon. I'm delighted to be here today to highlight key initiatives for the Ministry of Public Works as outlined in the national budget last Friday. As you already know, the Ministry is responsible for the island's critical infrastructure, including roads, sewage, waste collection, water supply, quangos, and by extension, municipalities, lands and parks, among other areas. These areas are Bermuda's essential resources, which is our responsibility to sustain and play a crucial role in our path to continued economic growth. In this year's budget, our ministry will be allocated an operational budget of $75.3 million, an increase of $6 million over last year. The funds will be used to fund several vacant and unfunded posts, so that we can increase our workload as well as provide additional operational funding. Under capital funding, the ministry has been allocated $44.4 million, the same as last year. These funds will provide funding to continue the repaving of Harrington Sound Road along with other areas of significant deterioration. We will identify these areas across the island and patch those to improve the overall driving experience until we can do a full reinstatement. I'm keenly aware of motorists' concerns who are sometimes frustrated by lane closures and delays in their daily commutes on our roads due to road works. I remind that we advised of these inconveniences before the work began. We are still a year out from it all concluding. This investment will go a long way to ensuring that the state of our roads will be strengthened for years to come and the reliability of the electric supply is enhanced. Funds have also been set aside to acquire new machinery, equipment, including trucks, and $450,000 for electric vehicles. Highways has been allocated a budget of $5,141,000, representing an increase of $398,000 as compared to the 2022-23 budget. This increase is primarily due to the reestablishing of a third road cleaning crew to tackle roadside vegetation clearing. $400,000 will be spent to complete the installation of solar panels on several government buildings. The deployment of solar panels is a significant achievement by the government. Panels already in place on government buildings have saved taxpayers tens of thousands of dollars in electricity costs. Capital funding will also be allocated to restoration works at our forts and historical sites. We will continue with upgrades to the Pembroke Canal to the tune of $240,000 to address issues connected to flooding in the area following heavy rainfall. Elsewhere, $560,000 has been allotted to continue to modernize public streetlights through the use of LEDs. The benefits of LED lights include their lower use of electricity, which results in savings, extended lifespan, and durability. Other capital spending will include a redesign of the Arboretum car park and installing CCTV cameras at Horseshoe Bay Beach to bolster security as well as erecting new signage. Additionally, new park benches and picnic tables will be installed at parks and beaches across the island. Improvements to the botanical gardens remain a priority. They will include upgrades to the exotic and cactus houses and a proposed open-plan barn in the stable section near the main ring. The upgrading of collections will be reinstituted and plant labels will be installed. Benches and picnic tables will be replaced and fencing being installed to control the flow of traffic and parking. $3 million has been set aside for major buildings, the exact figure as last year, which will include the replacement of the aged and unreliable elevator at Global House. There will also be improvements to lobbies and communal areas at Global House and the Government Administration Building, as well as upgrades to bathrooms at Warwick Kent. Regarding our operational spending, $10 million has been allocated for parks, a slight increase of $300,000. This increase is due to the government's resumption of organization of the agricultural exhibition, increased costs of lifeguards, and other expenditures. $13 million has been set aside for the ministry headquarters funding for the purpose of previously unfunded posts, salary upgrades, ministry-level training, and increased use of the health examinations and inspections. WEDCO and BLDC are in the process of a merger for which we anticipate greater efficiencies of both physical assets as well as human talent. We are expecting this new single entity to emerge on or before January 2024. Since my announcement of the merger some months ago, the companies have already made operational changes within similar departments, most notably the merged accounting functions, which are now physically located at WEDCO in Dockyard. The ministry projects that in 2023-24, we will experience a savings of up to $700,000 as a result of these realized efficiencies and renegotiated supplier contracts. Although largely under the BLDC mandate and not normally reported in this forum due to the enormity of the impact in the east end of the island, I'm compelled to give an update on the East End Water and Wastewater Project. This has been a massive undertaking with so many facets to the projected, coupled with countless contractors carrying out different aspects of the infrastructure upgrade works. To that end, I'm pleased to report that the project is scheduled to be completed within the second quarter of this year, barring any unforeseen events. Despite various delays, it is expected to be completed within the original budget of $30 million. When completed, the upgrades will supply the East End with ample potable water for generations to come. This will also usher in a new waste collection system and a new waste treatment system that can accommodate hotels in the east, as well as the Corporation of St. George and Southside. Finally, the most impact to the natural environment of the entire island, we get to see the closure of the current St. George's sewage waste outfall at Tobacco Bay. This is a brief summary of some of the new funding being provided to the Ministry of Public Works for the upcoming year, 2023-24. I, of course, will provide a more fulsome report of revenue and expenditures during the budget debate in the House of Assembly. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister, for your remarks. At this time, we're going to invite questions from the news media. Any questions from BBC first? Jasmine? Okay, let's start with the Royal Gazette. Sarah.
This one?
Yes.
Hi, Minister.
Hello.
It's good to hear that some work's been done on the roads. There's been certain concerns for many years. Can you go into more detail about how much specifically is for repaving the roads?
Currently, it's $2 million that's allocated specifically for road paving, but that includes some of the rehabilitation work from Balco trenching works. But what we are going to do is to continue the paving on Harrington Sound Road and then identify some of the worst areas in the country and patch those whilst we await full remediation.
Okay, so no other areas have been decided on yet?
Well, I've given my list, which covers from Southampton East to Hamilton and back on all three roads, Harbour, Middle, and Social Road. And we've invited input from those who are complaining the most to give us the areas that are in greatest need.
Okay. Do you have an idea how much it costs per mile to resurface the roads? We've heard it's about $1 million. I don't know if that's right.
No, it's about $200,000,
Okay.
I'm guessing, yeah.
Is there a timeline on the works for the roads?
It'll probably take us the whole year. We are likely to have challenges with aggregate, which most contractors now are importing. And so we're looking at doing the same thing ourselves in order to reduce costs.
You mentioned the government's taken on the Ag Show.
Yes.
For this year.
Yes.
That's still going ahead?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're well underway. All of the participants in the ag show are keen to get back on the ground. It will not be a full show because we're starting late, but it will be similar and close to what we've had in the past.
Okay. And the cameras at Horseshoe Bay, that was something that was already there and they're being replaced, or that's a new thing?
No, that's new.
Okay. Is that anything to do with incidents that have happened there?
No, just upgrading the level of security at Horseshoe Bay. It is the area that gets the most cruise ship passengers on a weekly basis, and we're just enhancing the security.
Okay, you mentioned 13 million for Ministry HQ funding for unfunded posts. Can you give a bit more detail about what posts they are?
Well, they cover every area of the ministry. Every area of the ministry has unfunded, unfilled posts. Most of the money for those posts was taken out last year, and we're replacing some of that funding this year.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Next, we'll invite Jasmine Patterson from BBC.
Afternoon, Minister.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for your comments today. Just going back to some modernization for streetlights into LED. Given the recent outage that we experienced, I wondered if the ministry would support moving away from electric streetlights, etc.
To what?
A solar panel, any other form of power?
There's been no activity in that regard.
Okay, thank you. Going back to the ag show, so the ministry has decided to host that again. The ministry also asked the committee to go out to previous donors to help with supporting the event. I wondered if you will be getting any help from outside donors.
As the information that's available to me is that I want to say every single group, but that's probably not accurate, but certainly most of them have indicated a willingness to come back and participate. The decision was made in mid-January, and so a lot of work has gone on already in the last month to get people up to speed. Everybody understands that we're late starting in terms of putting on and organizing the ag show. But everybody is keen to go back to having a full show in person. Last year we had a virtual show that didn't go down too well.
Yeah. Well, what sort of financial support are you getting?
We're spending about $100,000 out of Parks' budget for next year for the ag show. The budget for putting on the ag show is about $200,000. But we'll get a significant amount of that of in-kind support from sponsors.
Okay, thank you. Going back to the waste management down in St. George's, do you have a time frame or an expected completion date with that?
That's the next quarter.
Next quarter, thank
Yeah.
you. $22 million was assigned to make upgrades to the Tynes Bay waste treatment facility. How would you say that project is going?
Actually, it's $29 million. It was $9 million last year and $22 million this year. The project is actually going a lot smoother than we anticipated. We are facing significant supply chain issues. Tynes Bay is the only waste treatment plant we have in the country, and so you can't go to Gorham's and buy a spare part. In many cases, you have to have it manufactured. But because the plant is so old and we have a long experience with the original suppliers of the plant, there is an excellent working relationship with them. There are currently, I believe, 22 engineers on island at the moment working at the plant and have been for the last several weeks. They are currently refurbishing the number one turbine at Tynes Bay, and so the other one is burning trash. But it reduces our capacity to burn trash, and it also eliminates any redundancy. But so far, so good.
Okay. And in terms of stabilization, the plant being stabilized, we're okay in that department?
It's at a critical stage. It's going to be not okay for probably the next 2 years. It is a 27-year-old plant that has not been subjected to regular maintenance over the entire 27 years. So every government can take a portion of the blame for that, the UBP, the OBA, and us. But we are taking steps to ensure that the plant continues to be operational. Part of the process that we're in, we just had a paper approved this morning from Cabinet to do a business case for the full maintenance of the plant, which is going to cost $150 million, so that we can come up with the best option about how we fund it and how we go about doing the work and still being able to operate a plant that can burn the country's waste.
Sure. Just overall, the Premier said that there would be increased funding towards infrastructure in Bermuda.
Yes.
In his speech, he mentioned upgrades to the Hamilton Ferry Terminal, that was at a critical stage as well, from my understanding. What plans are in works there?
The challenge at the Hamilton Ferry Terminal is that there is a floating dock that is old and needs to be replaced. And so it is quite similar to the challenges that we had in St. George last year at Hunter's Wharf. And so that work will be carried out. As I indicated in my statement, we got $6 million more than we had last year, which came as a pleasant surprise on the 31st of January when the Premier indicated that every ministry actually got extra funding except for Home Affairs. And so we are putting that to good use to improve some of the infrastructure that we are currently addressing.
Okay. And do you have a price tag on that specific project, the ferry
Which
terminal?
one? You lot always ask the price. We can't tell you the price at this stage, because then the people who are going to bid on the work know exactly how much we budgeted for it, and that's the figure they're going to come in with. We'll happily give you the price once the contract has been awarded and the project gets underway.
Okay. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Jasmine. At this time, we're going to invite Ciola Wilson from Bermuda Real.
Good afternoon, Colonel. How are you?
I'm good. I'm fine, thanks.
Good to hear you discuss this water project. In an extensive piece we did with WEDCO and BLDC CEO and CFO, it was noted that this environmental thing regarding sewage that affects Tobacco Bay and all of that will soon be addressed. It's an epic milestone environmentally, but it was also noted the government and people of Bermuda know there are other points around Bermuda where we are still in 2023 running off raw sewage. Hungry Bay is one of them.
Yes.
That area is not BLDC or WEDCO. That's part of the government water system. I understand the hospital may or may not be tapped into it, but how is your administration looking at this whole issue moving forward?
It's one of the issues that are on the agenda for the changes that are coming to the municipalities. Let me correct you that the waste treatment plant pipes infrastructure is owned by the Corporation of Hamilton. And that is one of the number one issues that are on the agenda for addressing with them once we get past the challenges that we're facing in the courts.
Any idea when that might be?
It is a matter that's before the Privy Council, but in the overall scheme of things, everybody's assessment is that that's not a matter that's going to rise to the top of their agenda over some other more important issues.
Sure.
And so it's difficult to predict. it's impossible actually to predict when a ruling may come down, and so we just have to wait.
With regards to aggregate, what are the issues exactly
Aggregate?
for road?
Oh, we don't have no more places to quarry.
There's reports that you have a certain government colleague who takes the stone or whatever from where his construction company excavates or whatever, and makes that available. Are you aware of that?
I'm not. I am aware of one of my colleagues who's in that business, who just imported aggregate from Jamaica, and that's what he's having to do.
What's your ministry's position on government-owned buildings sitting around here falling apart, like probation services by the tennis stadium?
We don't have the funds ourselves to fix those buildings, and so we are quite happy to entertain any private sector enterprise that might be interested in doing that. In the case of that particular building, we had signed an agreement with a developer who was going to turn it into a boutique hotel. That was before COVID. Post-COVID, they have looked at the numbers and have decided that they're not going to proceed. So it'll be going back on that particular property will be going back on the market shortly. But there are a number of properties that we've entered into agreements with individual developers to rehabilitate and get free rental time in this space to make up for the investment that they make, and the government will then get back a producing asset as opposed to a deteriorating one.
When you were first reappointed to be Minister of Public Works, you stated some things you were looking at. One of them was forming a basis when people dig up the roads that it syncs up with other companies. So you don't have cable digging up 1 week and then the phone company the next. What progress have you made? Because it appears it's still happening.
No, it isn't happening. Everybody has gone into the hole at the same time that Balco have been doing their trenching work, as we have done in St. George's with BLDC. And so going forward, once those roads are remediated, there should be no reason to dig up the roads, because Public Works has also put redundancy in those trenches, so that even if a new supplier, new electricity or cellular company came along and needed to run cable, they can rent space from us without having to dig up the roads.
And just finally, at one point you were taking a look at making recycling mandatory.
Yes.
Change your mind,
No.
nothing happened. What's the deal?
No, one of the most irritating things about this job is the length of time that it takes to get stuff done. I have not. I'm going to do something in the first half of this year. It's well on the way now. I don't want to give any people any advance notice, but mandatory recycling in some shape or form is coming.
Because we need to.
Yes.
Thank you.
We need to, and it's in our best interest. I mean, we don't make a whole lot of money out of it, so it's got to be a social and an environmental conscience that we have. But one of the things that we have done that really has helped us in terms of saving money is we no longer ship glass overseas. We use it ourselves in both in road paving and filling areas that need to be filled that would have been done by sand and rock before. You can do it with glass. One of the most successful aspects of that is the work that's being done at St. John's Road Field, where the field has been raised by about 6 feet. A significant amount of that has been glass from the quarry.
Thank you.
And the Royal Gazette has one more question.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I forgot to ask about the the new schools, the new parish primary schools, Francis Patton and Purvis Primary, were mentioned. Is there anything you can say about what's been dedicated financially to that yet at this stage?
No, that would be a question for the Minister of Education when you get him behind this podium.
Okay. All right. And the Bermuda Housing Corporation refurbishments, is there anything you can give us as way of an update on that?
What refurbishment?
There's 21.6 million grant to the BHC to refurbish 137 housing units.
Oh, that.
Yes.
So they are well underway. That 21 million is coming in several tranches. So they got the first tranche, which is $4.6 million. They will get another tranche in this current budget, which I'm going to guess, I think it's about $6 million. And the project is pressing on. The first renovated house has been completed and the tenants are in it, much to my chagrin, because I thought I'd indicated that I wanted us to see it, us, the country, to see it before the tenants moved in. So we're now having to see if they're interested in, one, going on camera, or two, allowing us into their property. But we will certainly make sure that we do that going forward. So there are, I think, 31 units that are in this first phase, and all of them are in various stages of construction. The largest one is at Harmony Club, where there are 13 units that are well underway, and they're due to be completed by the end of this not financial year, the end of this calendar year, so December this year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Minister, for your presentation. That concludes today's news conference.